this again. And it'll just take me a moment. All right, say your name. I'm so sorry, Ned.
All right.
Mattina.
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 Yeah.
Matt. Well, that was a really pretty sound.
Yeah, a cell phone.
That was very pretty. Did you get that on your own, or where did you?
It was a text.
Oh, a text. Were they like, oh my God, it's not working? Are there your friends saying, oh my gosh, what's going on? I hope not.
No, but however, other people are asking me, and so I'm just telling everyone that we're starting over.
We're starting over. We're having computer issues. I don't know what we're having. Do not spell engineer wrong. That's not, and I didn't. It's fixed.
Look on your page. And you're on Jani Spiritual
Medium. Yep. Okay, now we should be going live now. Mattina. That's such a pretty name, Mattina.
Thanks.
Mattina. So it's almost there. We should be hopefully popping up. I know it always takes a few minutes. I know I said that. So our meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. So you should be able to see it and then send it over to the NDE page and then allow anybody else to.
There it is.
Okay, perfect. So you see it and it's good. That's good. This is all going in the right direction. The last time we were in the very, very wrong direction. I want to tell you, like, spirit is popping everywhere and they're not like letting me have a moment of peace while this is going on. Except actually I'm quite peaceful because it's just the way it's going to go. And you can either spend your life getting upset about how things happen or go with the flow. So this is a great. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tonight I'm lucky enough, and I hope you realize you're lucky enough too. We're going to be having a interview with Ned Mattina. Isn't that just a beautiful name? Mattina. It's gorgeous. And you guys probably saw that I had that Ned has sat on the board for IANDS, and we'll talk about IANDS and sort of his exposure in there. So that's absolutely exciting. He developed an NDE page that has over 45,000 members. It's been a very safe, positive place for people who have been near-death experiencers to really talk about their experiences in a very comforting, supportive arena. He is also a software engineer and a new medium. So we're going to have this conversation about how things came for him, how they all developed, because I know that how things develop for him are how things are developing for you. And it is, if you have any questions, make sure that you definitely share them on my Jani Spiritual Medium page. I will see them there. I think, okay, I did, just so all my people know, I am recording it. I do see the little recording icon. I didn't forget. and Ned will be able to push that anywhere that he wants to later on. So, Ned, did I encompass everything that you've been doing accurately?
I think so. Well,
Okay.
and I'm a huge nerd too, and
A huge,
so and
I don't know. I think the nerds of like, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think I
yeah,
love them. Like,
it's
I'm a nerd.
it's a positive because yeah, like, you know, it's almost like a left brain and a right brain. You know, it's in terms of having a day job that's engineer where everything is logical, and then also to, you know, to be a medium and turning off all logic and all reason and just receiving
Right.
directly. It's
Just
cool. Um yeah.
how did you, I know that I would explain to people who may not know what IANDS are, what INDSE stands for.
IANDS is it's the International Association for Near-Death Studies, and it's I think it's like the oldest and maybe largest group of people who study NDEs and who take them seriously. And
Mm.
it began in the early 70s. And if you've heard of Dr. Raymond Moody, I think he was a part of that. I don't know if he was a founder, but possibly. I don't remember. And then there was Dr. Bruce Grayson and a few others who started legitimizing NDEs. And so when people were in surgery and or in a coma and they woke up and they had vivid memories or were very excited or very angry sometimes that the a doctor actually or
Save them.
right, you know, because they're like, I was in the best amazing place, you brought me back here. You know, IANDS, it was a pioneer in terms of uh, uh, bringing a serious a thought and appreciation to NDEs,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, they have a yearly conference, and it's almost always in the U.S. I think perhaps in the future it could be international too. And I started out my first conference. It was in 2012 in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since I heard about it, I'm like, I have to be there. And so I went there, and it was so interesting and like a family, because if you've interacted with anyone who's had a death
Mm-hmm.
experience, it almost always opens up their hearts. And so there's a lot of hugging. There's a lot of, you know, just appreciating people who are even strangers. It's like you haven't ever met, and yet you feel comfortable because everyone is in their hearts and everyone sees you. It opens up your intuition too.
So when you were there in 2012, that was your first time going, and you went. What made you decide to go to IANDS?
I think because a few years before that, I heard about near-death experiences on the internet, and I would often watch the YouTube
Right.
videos of them, and they were so inspiring to me because, you know, as a scientist or as a person who has a scientific mind, I needed a reason to be here. I felt like, what's the point? If you ask a typical scientist, they'll say there isn't a point, and that we're just an accident, and so I felt, because I didn't have a happy childhood or life at that time, I felt, well, we're just an accident, then there isn't anything really keeping me here, but uh, uh, it began a search in me, uh, to find out why, you know, I should actually live here. Why does anything matter ultimately? You know, um, and and every time, and so the first time I heard about an NDE, I think it was in Dr. Raymond Moody's book, A Life After Life, and I read about the powerful light and the intelligence. It was so intelligent and knew everything about the person. It emanated like a force of love, like a tidal wave, like a stronger than people can um, imagine here.
Yeah.
And I heard about this, and it was interesting because I realized, I learned these are not hallucinations. It isn't, people often have accurate, veridical perceptions, accurately hearing conversations or observing people or situations while even clinically dead. And also, these accounts always reinforced that there is a reason that we're here. And so I had a childhood that was painful, and as a teenager, I thought about suicide. And so after I learned about these and kind of like remembered, it's like there is a reason, and I got excited. It's like because so many people are unhappy,
No,
even
absolutely.
even people who are religious or who have some beliefs, our society is often, you know, avoiding a lot of our own emotional issues. So see how many people are on like a Prozac or a Xanax or prescriptions like that. And I'm picking on anyone if they are, but just if we had a happier society, we wouldn't need, all that. Or if life was not inherently stressful in a kind of, you know, um, almost weighing us down, like a lot of people economically, even,
Right.
rents, they keep on increasing and incomes are not, and people are like, oh, what do I do? It's just a hard situation. And so, if we had a more if people were operating in their hearts, it would be a lot happier. And actually, a lot of people who die, what they end up saying is that um, they were told, that a part of our purpose here is to help each other, support each other, and to be happier. A lot of the suffering and the injustice in the world, it doesn't have to happen, and it isn't God's fault.
Right.
It's
Right.
us.
Right.
And
So
we
you had
are.
you had said a couple of things I just want to go back to really quick, because I am a huge fan of Dr. Raymond Moody. I am Life Between or Destiny of Souls, Journey of Souls. If you have not read those books, I strongly recommend you getting those books and finding a way to incorporate his teachings into because he did this by accident, right? He started with hypnosis, and then oops, sent somebody over to the other side that started telling him about guides and their life plans, and they were being able to give what they were coming to Earth to do, and who they
Oh,
were picking as parents.
um, that is Dr. Michael
Oh, do I have
Newton.
the wrong one? Oh, I have the wrong one. Sorry, my bad. My bad. Never mind. Take it all back. I take it all back. But still, those two books are good. So anyway, get those. So you started going there when you first went. How old were you, and how did you have that idea of wow, this is something I want in my life?
Yeah. So in terms of age, even though I'm an engineer, sometimes I math is tricky, and so I was about 28,
Okay.
and I knew, ever since even before I was at the conference, I, I felt like since I heard about NDEs that a large part of my purpose, or perhaps the largest, is to spread the word about it, because it saved my life. And it's like, this is the reason, everyone. It's like when everyone is even here in politics and people are bickering, and it's like the answer is always one: love. It isn't a changing. It isn't like, well, these people are bad and these are the right people. No, it's love. And so, and if people who die all have the same message, and it's the most important, they talk about that, our actions on earth, our words to others matter.
Hmm.
And if people are constantly uh, picking on each other out of anger or a spite or whatnot, I mean, it's also, it will reflect on us, not just here but afterwards, and we're going to have to live with it. Like, I acted like that, and we often feel the how it actually felt on the other end.
Yeah.
So um yeah, I hope that
That's
answers.
intense. I think that's intense for people to kind of grasp that I know that there's a couple people that I've interviewed that were NDEs, and they're like, everything is recorded. It is all understood. It is all written down. And sometimes the reviews for people are different. They can come when they're on the other side, or they can come as they unfold their lives here. It's like every NDE is perfectly orchestrated for each individual. It's kind of mind-blowing. Like, and you probably experience a lot of that mind-blowingness, because then you created this page. Did that page come out of the 2012 experience of you going there and having these experiences of, oh, we're not alone, like that we're actually supposed to be doing this together?
Good question. Well, it was about a year afterwards, almost exactly, because I I attended the conference, the first one in September 2012, and then in September 2013, I just had an idea. I was on Facebook, and I thought, if I create a group about near-death experiences, and I will just share articles or videos about it, as a place for people to find. And I didn't have any expectations at all. I just, I had that idea. I'll start it, and then I think people, they found it interesting, and they kept on joining. And what happens a lot is, a lot of times people will join and then see it's interesting, and then invite a lot of uh, friends or a family, and say, hey,
Okay.
look, this is so interesting, and it just kind of grew on its own. I think because people who were like me, who needed answers, science tends to avoid the whole topic, and just, it says we're an accident, and that's about it. There isn't a purpose. There isn't, there isn't anything, sometimes atheists will mention the power of altruism, of helping each other, and which is
Hmm.
excellent, but without anything behind that. And what I find amazing about near-death experiences and mediums and all true healers is they always talk about the importance of love, and that that it is recorded, like you said, our whole lives are recorded. It's amazing because as a person who thought about suicide, a big reason for that, I felt like nothing mattered. It's like, if nothing matters, why even try, or
Right.
why even do anything, And but what people who die and return, they say that there is a purpose, and people are often told it's not your time. Um, and so when I heard that, it was incredibly healing for me, because it's like there is a purpose. If I the actions I do and things I say matter, and not just to any people, anyone's opinions, um, but there is a higher authority. There's a higher power, and which is amazing, and people call it a God, other names, spirit, and it's all, we're all one, and when they talk about, um, oftentimes how we're here to co-create heaven on earth. And so oftentimes, especially as a kid, especially another reason I thought about suicide was because I looked at the world and the news, and I thought, this place is messed up. I don't want to be here, and it's like, and then I ended up exploring into spiritual ideas, and even Hinduism, and they talk about meditating a lot and leaving the world behind. And I thought, before I hadn't heard about NDEs, I thought, okay, I'll do that. I'll just become a monk and meditate every day, and I'll just leave this whole world behind. And there are actually people who have had NDEs who come back and say that, and that isn't the answer, that we came here on purpose. We came here for a reason. When there are beliefs out there, or traditions who talk about how this earth is a bad place and you don't want to be here, and when people who die and come back, they say that no, we chose to be here for a purpose.
Yeah, I think that's very hard for people to wrap around. I mean, it's to have this idea that you came here to support everybody around you and to love. I always like to give a couple examples, because I love this example. Like, your purpose that day may be to pick up the nail that you see in the road that the single mother of 4 can't replace the tire. And if you pick up the nail, you are doing a huge service to this woman. I tend to go very tribal. I think that we are all family, and if we treated each other like family. And I love how you're explaining this, because this is exactly what you're saying. Treating everyone around you as if they're your soul, because they really are. That's the hard part. When you have been running your page, how in there, I'm sure you've seen a gamut of different experiences. Are there some experiences that stick with you more than others?
Yeah, in terms of NDEs, there are all kinds. A person could flatline and be out of their body for 5 seconds and then return, and you can have that as an NDE. And then there are the cases where the person leaves, and Eben Alexander's, his own words, a neurosurgeon who had an NDE, and he said, and then we left this universe, and it's almost like another dimension, and it's like even bigger than this universe. And I'm trying to remember the question. Oh yeah, and so in terms of, some NDEs are really profound, and the person learns a lot, and oftentimes it's actually told, you actually have a purpose. Return to Earth and share this with whoever will listen. And other NDEs are personal. You know, it's the person has a personal awakening, and it's only meant for them. Everyone is different. Everyone is on their own soul journey. You know, and
Yeah.
it isn't about a one size fits all. Everyone has to do this. You know, everyone is on their own path. And also in terms of the question, uh, people will often ask, you know, are there NDEs that go to hell? Or
Yeah, I was just like, what are you, psychic? I was just going to ask you that, Ned. I was going to be like, I do know that people have been asking me, and I haven't found anybody or haven't reached out, but I would be more than happy to interview them as well. What sort of experiences have you seen with your site in that?
you know, it's interesting because our human traditions and beliefs are usually, you know, a lot of people have been raised in religions, and their whole frame of reference is that, you know, and so it's about heaven and hell, and are you going to go to heaven or hell, you know. And when people die, it's beyond that. And so even when people have scary experiences, or painful ones, emotionally painful, and they feel their own perhaps hurt and their own depression that they've been avoiding, it's almost like the NDE forces people to deal with you know, their own stuff. And so basically, always work on your own issues, because you're going to have to work on them sooner or later.
Anyway, right.
Not
You're going
life
to,
or after. Yeah, you
if you don't
know.
work on them here, you're going to work on them there. That's absolutely true. Right. You're good. Right. One way or another, you're going to be working on your issues. It's just the way it is.
Um, and oftentimes when people, even if their death experience begins painful, you know, or scary, you know, like Howard Storm, actually, his began, he had some a trickster kind of demons or beings who kind of uh, tormented him, and then he ended up praying and asking for help, and then help came, and in his words, Jesus rescued him out of there. He ended up in the beautiful light and the high energy, love, a place, and he learned that. Hey guys, looking in the.
I know people. As soon as
Um,
you finish this thought, I've got a couple things to say about, like, because I want to point some questions out.
um, and what happens is that people realize, looking back on it, sometimes it takes them years or decades afterwards to reflect on it and their whole life, and to realize, I needed a wake-up call. I needed
Mm-hmm.
to face my own shit, you know. And I needed, because otherwise I was just living a lie, or I was avoiding it. I wasn't being who I am, you know,
Right.
a soul.
So I just want to point out, Paul, I see you, Paul Ammons. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I just want to point out that if there's anybody who is watching who has experienced an NDE, and you can reach out to Paul, I would greatly appreciate it. It looks like he's suffering some after effects of an NDE, and is needing a little bit of support. So find him in here and direct message him. I'm just going to ask you that. And Paul, make sure you stick around, because we could be helping you in different ways. Somebody was asking, I think this was a question, karma. I don't know if they were saying that as karma was, oh, somebody saying, Marsha, this was, yes, he's psychic. Yes, I like that. I'm a former RRA. I don't know what that means. Okay, I think that was all. If I missed anybody's question, please make sure you retype it. I apologize for that. And so you've seen, as people have moved into experiencing these sort of demon hellish sort of ideas, that they were their constructs that they brought in their human mind, and there was a shift. Have you seen that on your page as well?
Yeah, and there are people, but I'll add that I think it's more complex or nuanced, because I think, you know, uh, um, um, there are positive beings, you know, like guides and angels, and there are beings in spirit who, you know, are more selfish, you know, or whatnot. And it's almost like the whole thing about a like attracting like. And so if a person, let's say, has a lot of anger or narcissism, in the case of uh, uh, Howard Storm,
Mm-hmm.
he talks about how he was an atheist. He was a proud atheist and narcissist. It's all about him and his ego. And then when he died, he 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 actually was surrounded by other beings who had that kind of energy, who were egotistical and
Mm,
picking on him, you know, as he picked on others. And so it's almost like it's a combination of things. And so as our souls, what people often learn is that we are creators, are co-creators, you know, with everyone around us and with the higher power.
mm-hmm.
It isn't just us; it's us, and you know, it's we. And but also, you know, there are other beings who are attracted to anger, who are attracted to hopelessness and a depression. You know,
Right.
so yeah.
Yeah. So you started this page and have been jumping in, and really and you've like, it's since 2012, you now have over 45,000 members, and you're probably going to grow maybe a couple hundred in the next couple of days as well, because people are going to see this on my page and in YouTube, and they're just going to go, wait a second, I want to be on that. Because in my experience, one, I don't get like, I get the messages like, there's a new something on NDE experience. What is the exact name of your page so that we make sure that people can find it?
It's just simply near-death experiences, and you can enter also in the browser. You can just enter Facebook/groups/return from death, one word, and well, yeah,
Is it NDE, near death experience, or just near death experience?
just a near-death experience.
Okay, great. I'm just making sure I put that in right now so that it's on the comment.
You see it, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Great. We're all working in the same reality right now. It all works out that way. So so you have, so yeah, you've grown, this page has grown to 45,000. It's reached 40. And in my experience, and just, I have been on the page, I've just been a part of it, just watching. I have not had an NDE that I know of, or I know in this lifetime, that maybe not, but I can't, you know, whatever. I'm not claiming it because I can't remember anything. So what I am going to say is, I got lost there for a second. Other than, I just think it's amazing space that is so positive. And it's like, when you go on the internet, you see so much negativity, so much that kind of pulls people down. And everything that I see on your page is always building people up, always like coming to the help and the support of others that are in need, like other people who have had near-death experiences or having a hard time adjusting. It always seems like there's some sort of resource or some sort of person that always pops up. Do you feel like guided as you do this, or how do you, and how do you cultivate that kind of culture? Because if you can cultivate it online, you can cultivate it in the world.
Good question. And I want to add, because you know, this isn't about me, you know, and because actually I think early on when I created it and I prayed, and even now, like I'll pray, you know, help this group, help others. You know, it isn't a, you know, it's, and so like you said, that a lot of the other groups, or just the internet overall, you go to YouTube and half the comments are like mean, and it's just how people are. And so I, I tend to have almost like a zero tolerance almost. And
Hmm.
if people are, if I give people warnings who are kind of rude, or just always kind of causing uh, a trouble or a confusion, but
Right.
you have to pull the weeds. And actually, a part of this, I feel a little bit uh I'm humble about, because I actually, it's hard to do this without having some people who get angry at you, or who miss understand, and I've
Hmm.
had people who have, angrily left, or I've had to remove. And I personally do not have any, issue with them. It's just that in terms of the overall group intent, uh, they weren't getting it, or I'm respecting it. Anyway, so because of that, like I have to be firm on people, but I don't. It's only when I have to, and oftentimes our ego, it's like our ego likes to think that we have it all figured out, and sometimes it's um, me who is learning, and sometimes it's the other person. And I guess the whole point is that it's a responsibility. And I have two other moderators in there,
I was just
Katie.
going to say, this must be like a full-time job,
It
45,000.
is actually, because I mean, reflecting on it, ever since September
12.
2013,
Oh, 13.
it's like you know it's on the computer, it's on your phone, and there's the people who have to be added, posts that have to be approved, and even that. And so, like you mentioned about equality, because a lot of other groups out there are very open, and so you have a page, which can be about NDEs, and people are posting about ghosts and everything. It's like, and so a purpose which I have is that to keep it honed in on what the actual purpose is, because um, you know people often want a soapbox, and it isn't always about the purpose. And so,
Right.
yeah.
Did you have to like make a mission statement, or have you done that for the page, or they like had to figure out a tagline, or have you done like do you have a mission statement? You probably do.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, it's kind of a casual one. And let me, since I have it open here, I'm just scrolling on my other computer. It's I talk about how I was an atheist, and also, it's a public group, and so even people who
Yes.
are not in there can read all the comments and all the posts, and a lot of people are cautious about that. They say my NDE, if anyone finds out in my family or friends, they will judge me, and I always tell them, I totally understand that, and there are a lot of other groups out there which are private, and the reason mine is public is because the whole purpose is to get this information out there to the world.
To share it. Right.
Yeah, exactly, because it's like, there's a huge ignorance about it, and over time it's improving. But there's a lot of people even now who will say, "Oh, I've heard of those. It's when you don't have enough oxygen and you start hallucinating." No, if you look at what people are actually saying, it's a lot more than that, and so that's why it's public.
Yeah, I mean, I can absolutely understand that. And so, in the past couple of years, you have had, and I think this is pretty exciting because you've had sort of a huge awakening within yourself Would you like to talk about that now? Kind of move away from the page and the experiences and tell us a little bit about that, because I do know that's very interesting to this audience as well.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of, as I talk about this, I feel a little bit, all of us at times are procrastinators, and so it isn't as if, I have, it was like a powerful awakening and God, showed up and said, all right, Ned, you are now a healer. But it was just over time, I've had medium readings, and I have my mom's father. He died when I was little,
Mm-hmm.
and the first time I had a mediumship reading, even though I had never thought about him in a long time, because he passed away when I was 4, I think, and only saw him a few times.
Okay.
And in that reading, he was there, and he talked about how proud of me he's been, and how hard emotionally my life has been, in terms of, I used to think about suicide a lot, and anyway, he helped me out, and over time, I've had readings with other people too, and he's often there, and him, and also I think my guides,
Mm-hmm.
over time have kind of gently nudged me, like, uh, hey Ned, uh, you can do this too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've also heard you are a medium, and actually, if a few years ago in Denver, when I used to live there, I went to a group, a gallery, like about 100 people in the audience,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a medium up front, and he was giving accurate messages to a lot of people, and there were tissues and people crying because it was healing, and towards the end, he just walked up and he pointed at me and he just said, "You are a medium," and he turned and he walked away and he said, um, he just said, "That's all you need to know." And so, which was really interesting. And so, because I've heard it over time, and I think, yeah, I guess I could do that, and but I kept procrastinating, um, and then I think it was 2 years ago, I had a reading with someone completely new who I never met, and she was in a different city and everything. It was over the phone,
Mm-hmm.
and her first words were also, it's like, she said, "Your guides are shouting at you. Um, get out there and and stop doubting yourself." She said they were showing her a train of people in spirit, who needed me to get their messages out. And so I heard that, and it was like, okay, I finally, like, I started and I posted on Facebook, "Hey, anyone who wants a reading?" And so I began, and there is a lot of doubt, and there is a lot of, like, because it's subtle oftentimes, and you really have to listen. Um,
Well, that's my question for you, because I'm going to ask you this. I mean, I'm going to be very interested in your answer for sure. So when a medium said, "You're a medium, stop doubting, go ahead and get out there," did that solve your doubt?
well, it helped. It helped in terms of, like, it was almost like a counterbalance of that, And so whenever I was like, I can't do that, or it's so vague, and then I just remember that and say, okay, I'll keep pushing onwards,
Yeah.
and the readings I've done, have been amazing and healing, and it's a process, because because you're often seeing things and hearing things, um, and you don't have any context about it, and you're like, okay, I see a car, and it's
Right.
a red car, and so in your mind you're like, what do I tell them? I ask them
Right.
if they drive a red car or something. It's a process of learning um, what that is, and how to interpret it. And actually, you and I talked recently, and you talked about the dictionary, or
Oh, yeah.
some,
Right.
and because a spirit.
Did it help? Did you do it?
I procrastinated on that too. However, I thought about it too.
You're exactly like every coaching client I have. It's
and,
funny.
and and what this is, I mean, everyone has intuition. Everyone is a
Right.
soul, already. And so, but it's more about a person's uh, uh, personality. Are they interested in helping others?
Mhm.
Are they sensitive? Then oftentimes it's the kind of person who can really help others in this. If a person is like, I'm not interested in helping others, who cares? I have my own goals. Well, then, it wouldn't really work out.
Right.
And so, it's about your personality, and anyone who's interested in it, anyone who wants to help others, anyone who wants more proof that life is eternal. It's amazing, and there are teachers out there, and they call them mediumship circles, and it's like, and they often have them weekly or
Mhm.
regularly, and people practice, and I did that for a few years, and it did help. Um,
Yeah, no, that's like mediumship circles are really great. They are really great. And you can, if you have like-minded friends that are around you, you can start your own circle. Yeah, and start just connecting, or virtually connecting with a medium that can be sort of your host guide, and then you could be on your way before you know it with these circles. It'd be fantastic. I didn't even think about that till right now. That's pretty. We're going to get a bunch of mediums in the world happening now. Oh,
and
is there a difference between being a medium and a timeline jumping?
it's an interesting question. Yeah, I was just
You were
looking
looking at
at,
that too?
and I don't know. I'm not too familiar with timeline jumping, but I know that as a medium, it's all about quieting your mind, often closing your eyes and just receiving. And so,
Mhm.
I basically say a prayer. It's all about intention, intention and attention. And so, like, you have an intention, you put it out to the universe. Hey, I want to help. I have a client here, and um, let's help them for their highest good. And then
Right.
I listen, and then I ask for clarification, and then over time you realize this is a message. I see like an apple, and then I ask, okay, is there anything else? And then I see a calendar, and I see it
Hmm.
being filled in. And so the whole thing is about eating healthy regularly, every
Yeah.
day.
Right.
It's interesting.
Is that a
So
message for me right now, Ned? Just,
if, well, but good question, because I mean, oftentimes mediums um, get messages without even realizing it.
right. Right. Right.
And so it's amazing how that works out.
It is. It's absolutely amazing. It's such a fantastic. How can people get a hold of you to set up a session with you? And are you doing that right now? Or are you wanting to do that? Because I think, like, if you want, you could probably have a pretty full next few weeks.
Good question. I am doing readings, and since everyone here is on Facebook, you can send me a message, and I have an email address also. If you have pen or if you can enter it in.
I'll enter it in right now as you give it to me, Ned. How about that?
Yeah. Email address is a seeker.
Seeker.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the number is 812 at Gmail.
Gmail knows everything we do, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, I will.
You're welcome, Michelle.
At Gmail, of course, I would think my phone knows me, but it doesn't. I need, you know what, Ned? You know what I need like developed is this little piece of software that will be like, no, 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 you didn't mean that. You of course meant Gmail. Like, stop everything, pull it back, try it again. But so anyway, Seeker, Seeker 812 at gmail.com, and definitely get a hold of him for a session. How long, I mean, how long are you booking out? Are sessions about an hour? Are they a half an hour? What are you comfortable with doing right now?
Good question. So far, my sessions have been planned for almost always 30 minutes. That every single time
Okay.
it's gone over. And so at this point, I've had about 30 readings.
Okay.
And it's always over. Sometimes it's over an hour, you know, and
Right.
you know, because I'm kind of starting out, I have a pretty low price, but I also offer refunds, you know, and I tell everyone if the reading isn't helpful, or you know, if you feel like it, the people who you're interested in speaking to didn't show up, you know, I offer refunds, and so far I haven't had one, but it's just you know, it helps because the ultimate goal is to help people, and like a lot of people, like if I was in my ego and I'm thinking to myself, I am a healer and I'm going to help a lot of people, well then it kind of what's the word, attains it. However, but if I'm a person who just wants to help people, and over the years they're like, hey Ned, you're a medium, I'm like, okay. Hey Ned, you're a medium. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know, you know, it's almost like a reluctant, you know, and I've and so it's like, you know, but and so I just remember that, okay, well, the prime interest here is to help people. So as long as I have that, you know, it's like, okay, I just want to help you.
Oh, nice. Jolie said Ned gave me an amazing insight, waiting for a second conversation with him.
Remember
That's
that.
fantastic. And you, in all of this mix, in all of this, you have a day job. You are
Yeah.
a software engineer. Do you want to talk about that? What do you do in that realm? Well, now you're in California. So you were in Denver, which I love Colorado, and I miss it very much. We had talked about that. I was in Boulder, you were in Denver, and too bad we didn't know each other. I think we were there around the same time. And then you moved to California. I moved back to Michigan. So what was that? What is California like to you compared to Denver? And
Well, good question, because I grew up in Northern California, like almost in the Silicon Valley area.
is it okay? Wait, are there redwoods there? Did you grow up
Not
near the redwoods?
no. However, you know, it's possible that I might end up there in the future.
Oh,
And actually, I'm planning a trip next a week over there.
oh, that's beautiful. Like the redwoods are just spectacular, spectacular, spectacular. So I'm super excited for you. That's exciting.
Yeah, you know, and California, it's just interesting as a person who grew up here and as a kid, you know, went like all over into the mountains along the coastline.
Hmm.
It has so much beauty, like the nature. And of course, when people who haven't ever been here will hear, oh, it's California, that's all the it, crazy people or something. Like, it's interesting because whenever I lived in, in Texas, in Mississippi, in Colorado, every time I heard about California, it's always people like bashing it. And I can understand, because Hollywood's over there, and they associate, well, that's where Hollywood is. It's like in Hollywood, Um, but I mean, in terms of the natural beauty and the coastline and everything, it's the memories I have. Like, I lived in Colorado, and I was so uh, uh, happy to return. But everyone is different anyways.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, your land, there's no ocean. That's actually, there's no green. There's one green in Colorado. And being from Michigan, there's about a 50 million bazillion different greens here in the summer. So I just was like, oh, that one evergreen, I can't look at that one green. And I came here and it was like Technicolor. Like,
Well,
whoa.
exactly,
Like,
exactly. Because every time I returned here, either on a trip, and I landed, and I like you said, the color, because I see, even on the freeway, there are often bushes of red flowers, and in Colorado, you just don't often have that. You just either see, brown or
brown.
green or a snow white. You don't have a lot of color.
Right.
And so
That's so true, isn't it? There's not a lot of color there. So you still do your day job, you're doing your day job and mediumship, you're doing software engineering, and do you find that fulfilling? Do you like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had a interest. I remember as a kid, I saw my dad had a book on the C programming language, which
Mm-hmm.
was one of the major languages out there. And if you look at a lot of what's on your computer or your phone, runs on a software which is often like Java, but underneath the Java is like C. It's like the language of the hardware. So anyway,
Uh,
ever since I was a kid, I saw the code, and I'm like, wow, that code looks so cryptic and interesting. I want to know what it is, and so I would learn about it. And in high school, I took even classes in computer science, and I've
mhm.
always it's almost like architecture. It's almost like you're building things. It's almost like if you're a kid and you have building blocks or like Legos, and
Mhm.
you just assemble them, and you make something that's useful and interesting.
Right.
And so software is just like you have virtual building blocks, and you make apps out of them.
Right. And you make apps out of them, right? And that's the Legos, right? You make the language and the Legos and you build an app. That's so funny. I think like I'm wondering, I really love how you have brought this page, brought these ideas to life within Facebook, within this sort of like realm online. And one of the things that I don't want to miss is how this started from you being incredibly depressed. Or maybe I'm saying those words. So if it's a different word, but what's the meaning of life? Being very, very much uh, it's
Seeker.
all analytical. We're not here for any other purpose other than we're an accident in evolution. We're not doing anything other than this, and anything else is phooey. I love the fact that you and how was that process of opening up for you? Because I think that ends up getting lost when people are, and I guess I want to spend more time on it. It feels absolutely um, right, because in the culture that we're at right now, we have a lot of people who are having a hard time. I do a lot of sessions with a lot of people who are having a hard time. and not really wanting to stay on this earth or having issues staying on this earth. And I think like just spending some time to talk about how NDEs helped you to come around.
I love that question. Yeah, I mean, that's like the biggest reason. And I just want to add something, like, especially
Yes.
earlier on, it's almost like in some of our songs or our TV shows or movies, it's almost like people love to act as if we don't already have the answer. And they're like, I wonder why we're here. And it's like, we already have the answer now. It's here. It's to love each other and help each other. And so it's, what I love about NDEs and mediumship is it's like, it's where the buck stops. It's like,
Yeah.
here's the answer. It's like, and because people often philosophize and talk about, I wonder if we're in 11 parallel universes, or there's and it's like, it's interesting to think about, but in terms of the actual purpose, it's like, it's here and we just have to live it more. It's in our hearts. And so in terms of when people are depressed or feel oppressed, economically, and rents, it keeps increasing, and people are like, how can you survive? How come the whole system is making it harder and harder for everyone, and yet we're having these billionaires? And as I talk about this, it isn't about blaming wealthy people or whatnot, because there are wealthy people who are incredibly out there and they're helping others. And I actually have a personal dream to be similar, but also to help and to give back. And but the point is that almost all of the policies and the laws which are happening, how banks will often charge people for being poor. It's like, you don't have any money in your account and you overdrafted, and they're charging you more, and you're like, well, I can't even pay what I have, and it's a whole system of debt. And so economically is a huge reason where people are stressed out. And then in terms of the media, like, if the whole focus oftentimes is on the scary or the violent or the negative, and even a lot of movies and everything out there, of course it's freedom of expression, which is awesome, but it would be cool if we had more of a reminder of all this. And as I'm talking about this, I'm trying to think, actually, for me, getting the word out about NDEs and mediums, and actually doing it is helping in my small way. And we're all connected. And so if you're hearing this and you're excited or you're interested, and you don't have friends or family who will judge you or whatnot, and if you are interested in sharing it, the more shares, the better. Just overall, like, and just overall, like, if you see a positive story, sharing that, but I'm kind of on a tangent here, and so I guess
that's okay. It's interesting. Did anybody else's? I'm just curious. Did your sound at all go crazy for a second there? Did it? And I'm asking this also to everybody who's watching, because as I was sitting there, you might have noticed me jar, and it was like we just have so many spirits here. I think we're like, are you guys gonna do readings? I don't really know. I don't think so. But did you hear any kind of issues with the it was like you were just blaring in my ears all this time. You heard that too. Okay, Becky heard that as well. People heard that. Okay.
Everyone's saying yes.
And it's like, I was like, I didn't know what happened here right in my ears. Okay, so this is somehow the way, it's very, so yes, all the way down. So this is some of the ways Yeah, it's okay now. I love it because spirit is of a higher vibration and frequency, and this is they can affect sounds, they can affect speakers, they're electrical, they can interact in those interfaces. So I just want to show, like, they're showing up to let you know, yes, we are here. So just know that it's sound is a big deal, electricity is a big deal. And well, of course, any sign they can come through in tons of different ways as well. So I just want to make sure that I wasn't alone, because yeah, it scared me. I jumped out of my seat too.
Wow.
Yeah, I see, Ned, it's funny because I'm going to start a band. I don't know if you've heard this yet. I'm going to start a band. I'm going to call it Middle Age Rage.
Wow.
And um, it was it wasn't the start of my band. I'm just saying, like, just in case all of my people watching are like, whoa, she's starting it now. No, I'm not starting it yet. So evidently Spirit might want it, but it was pretty intense. So okay. So, Spirit wants to let you know we're talking, I'm actually talking with Ned Mattina. Ned
You got it.
Mattina. Okay, I like got it into my soul, Ned. So I am so excited for where you're going in your work as a healer, in your sessions. And I'm just, from some of the people you've already had conversations with, they're saying such fantastic things about you. So please do find Ned Seeker812 at gmail.com, not Gmail, but Gmail. Yeah, spirits. It seemed like spirits were trying to speak through the speaker for a second,
Wow.
which, can happen in circles. So that we should maybe talk about that for a second, which I didn't. I was a part of um, a table tipping circle for a few years actually, and where the tables actually rose and rocked and did a bunch of stuff, and in more of a physical mediumship experiences, not like, have you ever experienced some of that stuff, Ned?
Um, I, I personally haven't. However, I've seen it or heard of it.
Mm. I know that there's like a lot of people who it's definitely a physical way to see it, and I think I just want to invite one person to come with me to this tour. I know who, and Nikki, he's attached to you. That might be fun. But it's like literally you're in a pitch black room, and the table just starts coming up and rocking back and forth. It's sort of it's a interesting experience. That's what I want to say. But spirit is active in this world. So and I know we talked in the beginning how it can be very subtle, but I think spirit's definitely saying, I can be subtle, but I can also be right there in your face, where I want you to know that I'm here. And maybe it's a stamp of approval. I'm going to say yes.
I like
What?
that. And because I've had that too. Like I've or like it's like I keep promising, that here I am, procrastinating, but I keep promising myself and spirit, that I will meditate, and then it's like a time, and I'm like, well, and then I'll hear like a loud a bang from the kitchen, and I'll look over, and it's really interesting. So
Yeah,
um,
it is pretty. I mean, they're definitely, they might be conversating with you with knocks on tables and walls. So if they'll be like, hey, it's time to get going, buddy. You might want to listen. They're going to go through your speakers. You don't want them to blow them, because it sounded like it could have blown some of these speakers. So I know I don't want to keep you here too long. We've been here an hour. Actually, you and I have been in this with an hour and a half, because we had a lot of technical issues, or Jani issues, or technical and Jani issues. So I want to encourage everybody to get a hold of Ned. I want to encourage everybody to go to Near Death Experience and like the page, interact with people. They really are very open, and it's a positive environment as we're in this, Jupiter-Pluto phase, we are really trying to cultivate a new culture in society where, and the mediums are kind of leading the way, where there's one love for everybody and reaching out to anybody who needs it. So Ned, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. And I want to say before I wrap it up, is there anything that I missed or something else you want to talk about that you're like, well, I did kind of want to talk about this?
That's a good question. Yeah, it was an awesome conversation, and it's amazing how quickly it went by.
I know it goes.
And you know, I guess it's just a reminder that we're all in this together, and it's easy to misunderstand each other, you know, because I feel like, you know, like even with the NDE groups, like I'm in support of all of them. Like everyone
Right.
has their own purpose. It's not a competition. A reason why, like my group, I tend to have a kind of a tight control on it, is because I see how, like, I have a particular vision of it, and I know a lot of people don't always see that or understand it, and so like I feel like I need to, you know, like you talked about how it's different than a lot of other groups out there, and that's because I have that intention, and I see things that sometimes other people don't realize. So anyway, but the whole thing is that, you know, we're all in this together. And you know, even with the whole protests happening and the people who are angry at the protesters, it's like, if you can just remember um, this whole thing, we're all family. Every single religion has talked about this. Jesus, you know, he talked about it. Buddha, he talked about it. It's, you know, it's seeing connectedness. And when people die, and when you have to, and so next time you're angry at someone and you're like, well, you know, of course you know, I can hold back, but I don't want to hold back. I want to hurt them. I want to hit them, or even just say something mean, you know.
Right.
If in that moment, if you remember, okay, well, I'm going to be eventually on the receiving end of this, and so it's like, and then also think about how that other person is, let's say, a brother or a sister, and you know, it's like, okay, I don't want to hurt them. You know, we're all in this together. And actually, Jeffrey Olson, I don't know if you've heard about him. He had a crazy near-death experience, and he lost several of his family members in that. It
Oh,
was, however, he just recently he posted about, if there's um, if we ever have issues like this and people are divided, instead of a finger pointing and saying it's me or it's us versus them, if you
uh-huh.
just say we, you know, it's all of us. And so even if there's a disagreement, it's like we're all ultimately want and need the same things, including love and appreciation, you know. And so if we can appreciate our differences and compliment, and so you see a person who's, you know, who's at the opposite a political party, and just, you know, you see that person, I think about their family, or a compliment that you could give them, even in your own mind, you know, that helps to shift everything.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I agree with you. It's shifting, it's hard. And I will tell you, sometimes I want to just offer this as well to everybody listening, because sometimes you don't, if you think about it and you send them energy and vibration and love, I mean, higher vibrations and higher frequencies, and you're sending them a good energy sort of packet. You know, packets are big in the internet. Little packets. If you send them a packet, that individual will get it. They may not get it right now, but in their lifetime or afterlife, they're going to get this. And it's you giving and sharing the oneness. So you may just be able to send those little packets of energy, and it's the beginning ways to change your hardness, maybe change that. energy between you. So, and we're really looking to change that energy between. So offering those energy packets will be very helpful. I'm huge on that. So Ned, you're awesome. It's too bad you didn't live closer. You were like all the way in California. We could just go out and like have some coffee or something. Sometime I'm sure we'll meet. I can't wait for it. I can't wait to stay connected with you. And I'm just so glad to offer you to everybody. And I hope, of course, I'll send this to you and you can share it with everybody that you want to share it with. So you take care, and I will see you probably later.
All right, Jenny. It was
All
excellent.
right. All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming.